Hello and welcome to Hidden Hobbies, the show where we discuss, discover and delve into the untold stories about some unknown or hidden hobbies. I'm Jake Mcillhaga and today we're discussing Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons, a fantasy role-playing game which brings together hidden communities and friend groups, unknown to the wider world, right under your nose. Players of the game take on the mantle of adventurers from a multitude of different races, such as elves, dwarves, or orcs, and classes such as wizards, rogues, and bards. Every game has a dungeon master, which acts as both storyteller and referee. And challenges within the game have to be overcome with dice which vary from 4 sides to 20. By 2004, it was estimated that the game had been played by over 20 million people. And if you've never played it before, you might have seen it on Stranger Things, E.T., and even The Big Bang Theory. Creativity, logical thinking, and problem solving all play a part in the game's creation and duration. Today, I will be taking a couple of experienced guests who are great fans of this hidden hobby. So come with me today on a journey through Dungeons and Dragons. We're here with our first guest, Beth. Hi, Beth.
Hiya.
How are you?
All right, how are you?
Yeah, nice. So we'll just get right into it.
Yeah, go
So,
for it.
how long have you been playing Dungeons and Dragons?
Officially, I've been playing the official D&D for about 4 to 5 years, I'd say. It's hard to tell because the sessions are so spaced out, like.
Yeah.
But I think the core idea of D&D is everyone did it at some point. You know, a lot of video games have like multiple options for what you can answer. Like,
Yeah.
do you want to be a good person or if everyone hate you?
Yeah. So it's good to make your own choices so that you're not
Definitely.
playing a linear, experience.
That's the main thing with D&D.
So it's going to be
And,
different
like,
every time.
Oh yeah, and even as a kid, you do that thing where you're like, okay, so I'm the princess and you're the witch, but I'm actually a dragon and I actually kill you with fire. But D&D is a lot of fun because it actually has that idea of consequences. So like your actions actually impact the story.
Yeah. So there's a lot more gravity to the
Exactly,
situation.
yeah.
So what was like the main thing that got you interested in the game?
I mean, I've always been massively into fantasy. You know, I was always wanting to know about Lord of the Rings before I was old enough to know about Lord of the Rings.
Yes, the classics.
Percy Jackson, even like old mythology and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think D&D is a massive audience for that because, like, look at these things.
I do see the knight's helmet back there. I
Yes.
assume you don't always wear that when you play. It might be a little
Not
hard to see.
always, certain characters, give a bit of intimidation for them.
Yes. So on that note, what do you need to play? Like, do you need to spend a whole lot of money on stuff, or can you just come with?
So it's a variety. So to play D&D, I think the main thing you need is dice, which we can, see here.
Yes, that you've
A
got.
lot of dice. Find a D&D player, they will have like mountains of dice somewhere in the house.
Yeah, like I'm only ever used to this one. Like you can play Monopoly with that one just fine.
Oh yeah, no, D&D, you have a wide variety. Because the core idea is, like, say with like D20 here, which has 20 sides.
20? Are you sure? 20?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's crazy. That's.
And the idea
Yeah.
is, the higher the number you roll, the better thing you do. So like, oh, I punched someone in the face, nat 20. You kill them instantly. You knock them out. Nat 1. So you punch yourself and a puppy simultaneously. But then also for like D&D, so you'd have character sheets. So that we have that here. And this would be, so you'd write up your own character.
Oh, so yeah, this is like your statistics and stuff.
Yeah,
So this will help you through the game.
Yeah, so say you want a character who's really intelligent, you would give yourself really high intelligence scores. So if you're rolling to say, do I know the answer to this riddle or like this question? You could roll that and like, oh, you happen to know some information about it.
Yeah.
And so it would help you with that. So you're not having as even a chance as punching someone if you're meant to be more of a scholarly character.
Yeah. No, that's really cool to look at, to be honest.
And obviously some rule books. Rule books are more for guidelines for D&D. It's good to know at the start. It's good for a dungeon master to know your basic rules, to know what the basic fundamentals are with playing. As cheesy, and I know it sounds so cheesy, the main thing you need is imagination.
Yeah, well, I mean, it
That is
seems
the main
like it,
thing.
because from what I've heard, the role of the dungeon master seems, really convoluted and really sort of like time consuming, and, a lot of effort needs to go into that. So,
Oh yeah, a lot of it.
Speaking of which, we've a lot of books here. Do you mind telling me a little bit about these, what they entail? Are they just to help you?
So a lot of it is step by step. So here we've got our main one is a Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yeah.
So that would be your step by steps preparing game as Dungeon Master. But obviously if you're the player, you're playing it differently than Dungeon Master would. So we have the Player's Guide for that. And then there are so many like interesting and intricate monsters. You have a whole manual for that. And there are a lot more books. 'Cause obviously you have extensions to that and more monsters to add. Because there's honestly no end to how many things you can create.
I was going to say, because there's a very big number of books here.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you any other game that has this many rule books.
Yeah. Again, I find with D&D, the rules are a good start-off point, but a lot of it, you don't need to follow the rules.
Yeah.
If you think that, it will work better one way, you can bend the rules slightly.
The rules are meant to be broken.
Oh, of course.
So yeah, I did mention Dungeon Master. So have you ever been one yourself, or what? Can you tell me what that role actually entails?
I have. I'm a writer. I'm not playing D&D. And so I was immediately drawn to Dungeon Master role.
Makes sense.
When I first play, it's good to first play as just a normal player.
Yeah.
Do not jump into the deep end with Dungeon Master. You won't know what you're doing.
That would be stressful.
Yes. I find that when you start off Dungeon Master, you plan out a lot of things. So you'll be like, okay, so I have 50 different characters. These are their backstories. This is their family lineage. This is what they know. This is what they'll tell the players. And then the more you play, the more you realize the players will not do what you think they're going to do. That almost never happens.
So all that hard work, just wasted. But I mean, it's cool that this game offers the freedom for you to do that, even though that's absolutely not what you want.
Yeah, I would say to any players, please be nice to your DMs.
Oh yeah,
please be nice. Please don't go, I'm going to go the opposite of what you tell me to do. They have a thing planned out. Please do what they're trying to do. Like, do your own story. Do your own story. That's a lot of fun. But don't be too mean.
Yeah, true. So, would you say D&D is mostly creative, logical, or role-play based, or a mix of all three?
I think they all go hand in hand with each other. Role-play in the sense of, for anyone new to D&D, it's you create your own character.
Yeah.
And then you play as that character. Usually when you start out, your character will be very similar to you or what you want to be. So my first character was called Galahad after the Arthurian Knights. And he was like paladin, he was, good and righteous. And because when you first start playing, you're like, okay, I'll be a good character. I want to be a nice person. And then you get more on, you're like, wait, I can kill people in this game. I can steal stuff in this game. So the more creative you can make your role play with your character, the more interesting the story is going to be. And again, the logic kind of goes hand in hand with that because, if you've created a character who's, say, really intelligent, logically, they probably wouldn't do the stupid thing that you first thought to do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that balance of what would the character do? So being creative writing your character and then being logical in what then that character would do.
Yeah.
So they all go hand in hand with each other.
Fair enough. So we've talked about a whole host of aspects to do with D&D. Do you have a favorite?
I think my favorite thing, it's hard to tell. I mean, because one of the main things is just the friendship groups I think you can form with it.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of the time, if the D&D group gets along, the game will be a lot of fun. But if there's some people that you're not really getting along with, it can be very intimidating and very hard to throw yourself into the game.
And it's just a long day when it comes to the end of it.
Oh yeah, these sessions can last anywhere from 2 hours to 6 hours.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the group, it can be very difficult. But if you do like the group, it can be just tons of fun, just tons of laughs. But then obviously I love the creative side of things because D&D inspires so much great art. I mean, again, these books are so gorgeous.
Cool. Like I couldn't draw this guy right here.
Oh no, like that's serious talent. And even in the writing, you know, D&D inspires, like you'll think like, oh, it's just a silly game, but then you're in like session 6 and you're like, oh, this is actually, like, I'm actually invested in this character.
Yeah.
Like when a character dies in D&D, it's actually like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss them.
Heart-wrenching, yeah.
So I think, you know, obviously the writing side of things, the creative side of things, the friendship side of things, the snacks, a lot of it, I think my favorite part of it might be just the human satisfaction of storytelling, you know.
Yeah.
Humans have been telling stories since people could speak. So I think it's just that inherent joy of telling stories to people you like being around.
Yeah.
That's the best part of it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for coming in, Beth. It was lovely having you.
Great talking about it.
D&D was originally created by David Arneson and Ernest Gary Gygax, two American game designers who worked for Tactical Studies Rules Inc. in 1974. Video games had just become available to the world. However, the only ones available were the classics, such as Pong, Asteroid, and Space Invaders. To play these games, the most common place to go would be the arcade. But while these new consoles were a marvel, they lacked story, graphics, and controls. D&D is traditionally a tabletop game where players all gather together, but now the game has evolved. To find out more, we met with Jared and his Dungeons & Dragons party to see just how the game has went from the table to the screen.
Hi, I'm Anna, and I'm here today with longtime player Jared and his friends, who all form a party to play Dungeons & Dragons.
I think I'll jump in there just because I probably have the longest history with it. Where I played the first game about 2004. We had a fairly nerdy group in school doing World of Warcraft and everything else. Led to D&D here. I think I've played at least one game a month from about 2004 to 2005 time. Everyone in the chat here tonight, I think I've actually introduced you for the most part to the game in terms of a long-term campaign. Like we've run a number. I think we've done 3 campaigns I've run with this particular group. The group as a whole, we actually have a rotating cast of nearly 12 people at this time. Those certainly Talia, Rob, Daryl, and Marty would be kind of like the core of the group.
How far apart are you all living from each other? We can all gather online together, but I imagine the distance between you guys is what pushes this online form of playing.
So 3 of us are in County Antrim and the other 2 are in Dublin.
Out of the 10, 7 live within Belfast, who live in the Lurgan area. Daniel lives in Uri, Dara lives in Downpatrick, and Josh is currently in Australia.
What advantages have you found from playing D&D online?
For me specifically, it's a lot easier. Obviously with Talia and Jared will agree, with kids it's near as possible. Like I have the end a few times, so because of how I work, I would use more technology in terms of like Incarnate, Dungeon Alchemist, things like that. It's easier for me to track. So being online has been a godsend in that sense.
This online thing helped. Massive. If it was set in Belfast when I moved here, I was screwed.
I'm not going to be able to play play online because my kids are currently upstairs sleeping.
But remote for me, honestly, it's maybe a better deal because you can't rely on body language or maps or sketching something down quickly. It's all about your description, and for theatre and mind games in particular, it's actually been quite a boon.
But in contrast, what disadvantages are there to playing online?
We've had our technical issues over the years, I think would be the best way. But the biggest detriment is the lack of visual aids. Nothing will ever compare to sitting around a table having an amazing. There's something visceral about watching roll the dice and seeing the reaction, what the roll is. It's hard to replicate that kind of excitement in a digital game.
English is my second language and I rely a lot on body language to communicate with people. But sometimes it gets confusing.
So we've made remote work for it. In fact, I think for our group, probably our preferred way to play at this point.
How important has this accessibility been for each of you?
I mean, honestly, we're all adults with jobs and most of us have kids. It would be possible for me, for example, to play at all if we didn't do it online. I could not make it every week, to someone's house to play for 3 hours. So it's not possible.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to, but I'm the exact same as Tali.
Yeah, it's been essential. That's the only way we realistically been able to continue the gaming side of the group.
I'll just ask one last question if that's okay. Would you guys say that D&D has kept you together, both through COVID and general life?
I'll go full cheese in this, but it's very reflective of my true feelings on it. It's very much a friend family kind of thing. We've become a very close bunch of friends. Between us all, we have a massive amount of overlapping interests. There's always various conversations where D&D is very much the core of what we do. We do love our game, we do whatever way to make sure we keep that going. But even if we were to stop playing D&D tomorrow, I would still chat to every one of these nerds every day. So
That's so great. I think that's what it's all about, really, the friendship and community of it all. Thank you all so much for coming and chatting with me. It's been really great. Bye. Thanks so much.
Alright, cheers.
Nice to meet
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thanks to Jared and his D&D team for showing us how they play online. Now we're back, this time with Adam. Say hi, Adam.
Hi, Jake.
And Adam is yet another player of D&D, and he's going to be just telling us how the game has grown throughout its lifespan. So why do you think so many people are playing Dungeons & Dragons, and why do you think that growth has happened?
Well, especially recently, the growth, I would say, is to do with the lessening of the stigma surrounding the game. Like, obviously in the past there was satanic panic, there was obviously just people thinking it's a very nerdy subculture, which fair enough it is, but I feel like with references in Stranger Things, the Dungeons and Dragons movie, it sort of takes the barrier away for new people that were maybe scared of getting into it or didn't know how to get into it, to jump in and start playing.
Definitely. What do you think the beneficial social aspects of Dungeons and Dragons are?
Well, it's how the game is played. Like, it's whether you do it online, you do it in person, it's still a group of people coming together to sit down for a couple of hours and solve puzzles, fight monsters, save
your
a town,
average
burn it
Tuesday
down.
then.
Yeah, like it adds on. Like when we were kids, every stick was a weapon, every tree to climb was a castle.
I think we can all agree that's true.
So this is just the adult version of that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you there. D&D has grown from a private social game between friends to a large public platform of live streaming and online communities. So why do you think this development happened?
I feel like it was because people who were kids playing the game grew up and started getting into industries where they can promote the stuff they like.
Yeah.
Personally, I think one of the biggest group of D&D like subculture is Critical Role. And all the people in that grew up playing it, especially Matt Mercer. And he is a voice actor. He has done loads of stuff in the industry.
He's everywhere.
Yeah. If you've seen a cartoon, you've seen Matt Mercer.
Yeah.
And he was able to start Critical Role, which started as 6 people just coming together to play the game, and they would live stream it. And it has expanded on growth. Like recently, they were able to release a show on Amazon Prime, animated based on their first game, and they said it was crowdfunded.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember what their initial goal was. They raised 11.3 million, I think the number was, and instead of doing just one episode short, a full season, and which then got greenlit for season 2. So D&D, which starts as 6 people sitting together to play a game, can expand into
This
full companies,
huge,
TV shows, games, movies. Like,
that's insane. Like
it's just like how you play the game. The game can be anything, and it can lead to anything.
What do you think the benefits of these growing communities are for creators and players?
Well, for creators, it becomes their livelihood. Like I mentioned Critical Role, but there are countless other D&D podcasts, D&D shows, where these people have turned a game they play with their friends into how they make their living.
Yeah.
And it helps with the exposure of the game itself. People who have never seen, like me personally, that's how I got into D&D. I watched episodes of Critical Role.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything about it. I seen clips and I was like, this looks fun. Binge watched the whole season. So it's exposure for the game and exposure for them. And for the players, it also helps them learn the rules.
Yeah.
Because if you're watching a series where they start from session 1, day 1, you're learning how they play at low level, the rules, what they can do, what they can't, how the DM works.
Yeah.
And it also works if you're trying to be a DM. Like, you can see what the pros are doing and be
Yeah,
like, I like
exactly,
that. I want to
yeah.
do that for my players. Or if you're a player and you see a player do something, you're like, that was a really cool idea. I
Yeah.
want to try and imitate that.
Uh-huh.
So it works hand in hand between the players and the creators.
So do you think this niche hobby gives people a sense of identity and community?
Yeah. It's very similar to, we've all had that experience where you find out someone you know likes that one show that you're the only one you think you liked. Or that one book that
Yeah.
you know no one else who has read, and then when you find out they've read it, there's an instant connection there.
Yeah.
And then also the game itself, you're playing characters, but obviously they're going to be a part of yourself in there.
Yeah.
You're always going to play a part of yourself in the game, and playing a part of yourself for 6 hours, 8 hours, 3 hours, however long the session is, with other people also doing that, you're obviously going to connect. Like,
Yeah.
you're spending time with these people, you're overcoming adversity, you're overcoming challenges, you're getting annoyed at them, you're having fun with them, you're crying, you're laughing.
Yeah.
You go through the whole emotional range, and I feel like if you didn't connect with someone after that,
Yeah, there's
I don't know.
something wrong.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
know how
you
you
should
could.
choose a different board game.
yeah, stick to chess.
So on that note, are there any opportunities that viewers could look out for if they wanted to find a community to play Dungeons and Dragons with?
There's loads of resources. If you're at a school, college, university, you should check if they have a D&D group. I know Ulster University has a D&D society. You could ask your friends, like that's how I started playing. Found a friend who wanted to run a DM. You can go online if you don't know anyone. There's countless resources online on how to play D&D, how to teach you how to play, how to set up how to play, find people how to play, play in the actual game. You can have the full game set online, never have to leave your house, and still have the same, well, not necessarily the same, but a very similar experience to anyone else willing to play. It's a lot easier than you think.
And on that note, thank you so much for coming in, Adam. For our final segment, we will be looking into a lesser known and perhaps more tedious aspect of D&D. We are going to jump over to Ethan, who plays tabletop role-playing games like Cyberpunk and Warhammer, and he likes to paint these tiny figures which represent players within the game.
My name's Ethan. I started playing D&D probably in 2018, but I was playing different like tabletop RPGs from probably when I was about 12, so 2012 or so, 2013. I've been painting minis since pretty close to that time, maybe even before that, because I had a lot of the Warhammer sets, the Lord of the Rings one specifically. So I played a lot with that, and then I tried to follow the tutorial for painting. I wasn't very good at it, but I enjoyed doing it. It was fun to do, and I liked having painted minis, so kept painting minis. But I do enjoy painting probably the fantasy ones the most, because I play D&D probably one of the most out of any of the ones, because I play it here and I play in Derry as well. Yeah. So I've got a lot of them painted. A lot of the time I'll paint them with a group, so I'll get a couple of friends over. We'll have a load of the paint set all over the table. I'll get a load of the minis primed, and then we'll decide which ones we want to paint. Yeah. All of varying quality, but they look nice when they're painted, even if they're painted with crude design.
When did you first hear about painting minis, and who taught you?
I wasn't really taught by anyone. I started learning when because I was a big Lord of the Rings fan for many years, and when I got the Lord of the Rings Battle of the Strattle game, you get a load of minis with them, and in the booklet teaching you how to play, it's teaching you how to paint them as well. So I followed the tutorial for a while, and made probably the worst minis I've made, because I was quite young at the time, and they're very basic. But then over time, I got into painting more and more. I tried to make them better and better. And then once I went to university, I think I mentioned it to a few friends, and they said like, "Oh, that sounds fun." So then I brought a load of the paints up that I had, and then ended up painting a lot more. This is some of the oldest paint stuffs I have. I think it's pretty belongs to my dad actually, because he was the one who started playing tabletop RPGs first, many years ago now, and he was the one who first started playing them with me. Just got a little bit of paint there. On the drop on the thing, so I can take it out, slightly spin it around, slightly move it around to make it a little more thin, because that means it doesn't have massive globules. So if you want to do more details, and then I'm just trying to basically paint small areas at a time, making sure not to overlap. You can always, that's why I have the kitchen roll. I can always just remove what I've done if I don't like it, as long as it's still wet. or if it gets dry, I can always just paint over it. Yeah, I'm just trying to get basically individual bits, work out where they belong to on the actual mini, and then make sure I paint the whole area of it. You can always do different effects on it, but I'm not particularly good at that, so I tend to just pick areas and sort of try to paint over them. Painting minis can be quite fun to do, but a lot of people tend to, you know, shy away from it because they think, oh, I'm crap at painting, I can't paint minis. You know, they don't want to, you know, especially if it's not your minis, you don't want to. That's terrible.
I actually enjoy this crap.
You don't really want to, you know, ruin someone's mini, but you know, same principle every time. Bad painting minis is still better than no painted mini. So a lot of times the minis require multiple layers, so they can take a long time to paint. Sometimes you end up with like juggling 2 or 3 at the same time. If you're like, you paint one aspect of one, wait for it to dry while you're painting a different aspect of another. Of course, there's a lot of time you got to assemble the minis as well, which can take a fair bit of time. So sometimes, you know, someone will be painting a mini and I'll be trying to assemble a different one, because they mostly they don't, you know, a few of the like the D&D ones you can buy specifically will come in like pre-assembled and they'll have all the stuff there. But if you buy like from Warhammer, or if you buy a lot of other like mix and match ones where you can sort of like create your own. So a lot of the Cyberpunk ones I have like, you know, different possible ways you can assemble them, like what weapons you want to equip on them, what heads you want, you know, arms, legs and everything. So they take quite a while to not only assemble and then paint as well. The biggest pain is when they fall apart after you've painted them, after you've assembled them and you're trying to paint, and then you got to stop painting and reassemble, glue and wait for a while again. Takes a fair bit of time.
How long would you usually spend doing this at a time?
3-4 hours. I mean, what's it called? 3-4 hours is normally like a session doing like many minis as well, one after another.
Okay.
It's usually until everyone gets bored of painting. I think I'm done with this guy for now.
Thank you, Ethan, for showing us a small part of the bigger picture of Dungeons & Dragons. Thanks for joining me today as we learned about Dungeons & Dragons. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did. Come with me next time as we take a look at martial arts. I've been Jake Mcillhaga, and this was Hidden Hobbies. Goodbye.